Everybody, welcome to Microcementing 101. Today you're going to be learning the most important thing in this entire van build.
It's literally called the concrete oasis. You need to get the concrete part down.
Now we've been training in this for years and have learned all these techniques to make it look the way it does. You guys have days to get this down because we got a van with a deadline, all right? And I need you guys on your top game. Within a few days, I need you guys pumping out concrete pieces like we pump out. You guys think you can handle it?
Let's do it.
That doesn't sound very confident.
We got it. Yeah.
You sure?
Much better.
Okay. First step of microcementing is mixing your ingredients, okay? We've created some predetermined amounts here. It's very important that you don't do too much at once because it will dry up over time. You only have about 30 to 45 minutes to work with this stuff once it's mixed, depending on the ambient temperature. If it's warmer, you have less time. If it's colder, you have a little bit more grace period, okay? So in order to make things easier, we have the exact amounts written here in grams. You're gonna put the exact amount of powder that you need, and then you're gonna mix the exact amount of pigmented water, okay? It is extremely important that you get the ratio perfect.
When you have a van and you want it to be consistent the whole way through, it has to be exact.
Okay, so on the gram exactly. If you mess up, you gotta start over, pour it back in, try again.
We have a cheat sheet, so you have different size batches for how many square feet you want to cover.
Okay, once you have the exact measurements and you've triple checked and you make sure that you're not off by a single gram, now you can mix the two together. And now you're gonna take your drill. Okay. All right, you wanna make sure that it's a completely consistent texture, okay? And that's what you're looking for, okay? Nice, consistent, smooth. Okay, now we only have about 30 to 45 minutes to work with this stuff, so you guys gotta move quick. Now what you're trying to do is to get a very consistent first layer. It's gonna be a thin layer, okay? You're gonna wanna almost scrape it on.
It's all about the angle. So if I were to just go like this, you know, it just kind of scrapes it off. If you go too flat, it's too thick. So you wanna create a bit of pressure and get a nice, consistent, thin coat, okay?
So you wanna try and find a middle ground where you're kind of scraping and you're getting tiny little marks of the wood that's underneath. And that's how you know you're getting a thin enough layer. Start with the edges, that's the easiest way. You get a whole edge down like that, and then move on to the inside. This layer needs to dry for at least 12 hours until you put on your second layer. And then that second layer needs to dry for 72 hours before you put on the finishing layers.
Can we sand between layers?
You can, you won't need too much. You only need to give it a little bit of sanding just to take off some rough edges. Before anything gets done to a piece, the piece needs to be 100% perfected. You need to know that this piece does not need any more alterations. It's exactly what it needs to be, and I've accounted for the thickness of the microcement before it goes in, okay, so that we don't have to redo pieces. That's a worst case scenario because this takes 5 to 7 days to go through the whole process.
Please, for the love of God, dry fit the pieces before microcementing them.
Okay, so every piece gets dry fitted, then primed, then quartz primed, and then first layer of microcement, what we're gonna do today. Once you guys have your first layer pretty much done, we're gonna give it 5 to 10 minutes to dry, and then we're going to smooth it out with a just barely damp sponge. Okay?
The first layer is a bit easier because of that process of sponging it after, because the sponge kind of fixes any mistakes you might have made. But for the second layer, you really have to be cautious of how it's going to look when you're microcementing it because you don't sponge it. So you guys have about 20 minutes until this starts getting a bit harder to work with, so get to work.
Oh, Evan's serious. He's got standing up.
Get in there.
Actually, that was pretty good.
Wow, Evan. You're a natural, dude.
Used to fit drywall.
Oh, that makes
Same.
That makes sense. Go a little, you see how you're scraping off way too much?
Yeah.
Okay, so do a little bit less. It doesn't taste like frosting. That's because it's micro-cement. You want to go low, but a lot of pressure.
I made it better by doing 2 layers in one go.
Yeah, there you go. No, Alan.
What is with the
Alan,
speed?
you gotta just slow down. Slow down.
Be mindful. Take a deep breath. What is this?
It's a self-portrait.
Oh my God. Okay.
Ethan,
Passed with flying colors.
pretty good, guys. Look at this. This I consider an A, okay? This is an A. Way to go, Ethan. Not bad. Not bad.
Pass, for
This
sure.
is okay.
Nicole was giving me some grief earlier. What do you think, Ed?
You've come around. Now we're gonna take a slightly damp sponge and we're gonna sponge it out and get a perfectly consistent texture over the whole piece.
If the piece is down on a table, you're using the weight of the sponge. You're not applying any pressure to the sponge.
Yep, and just keeping it nice and smooth, big circles. You see how it's starting to become one consistent texture? That's exactly what you're looking for. This team is like super confident that they can get it done, and it seems like they all really accept the challenge.